Hello. On this episode of What's Up, Sam? How's it going, Sam? I don't forgot what I entitled these as, but basically, I am uh, I'm doing good. Things with the day job are doing good. We are getting into that process of finally getting some videos. Me and my cameraman are finally getting to that pre-production mode of getting some videos shot, some dramatic episodes. One thing I do want to clarify is the fact that I'm not alone in this. It's me and my friend and my actor friends. We're all volunteering on these projects. I do want to stress the fact that I've had to make some adjustments to my original planning, which was over a year ago. And if I'm looking like I am uh, wrinkled, it's okay. It's all right. It's okay. Um, Today, in the last couple of days, people have been asking me about my work, my writing. Where did I get my inspiration? Before I begin to that, I just want to say recently, about 3 weeks ago, I had a friend of mine that was killed in a car accident, and it hurt. And the reason why it hurt was the fact is sometimes as a believer you don't know in where people are, especially if you haven't talked to them in a long time. And she was a very good person. Her name was Carla. I I wasn't too close of a friend with her, but I was close enough to her to know that she had a good heart. You've seen some of her YouTube videos. She was a good singer. She was a good person. She was just a good person. And at such a young age, it's tough to just comprehend sometimes why things happen, and you question. Sometimes you question God on things, but that's not what this video is here. But I just want to acknowledge that. And one thing to do when you have friends, family members, people that you care about, even if they're not that close to you, enjoy these relationships that you have and you made in your life, because you don't never ever know when how long you are on how long you are at this earth. And didn't mean to start off like that, but I just want to acknowledge that she had a good heart. She was a good person. She was a good person. So I would say a little bit. Somebody asked me about my writing. They said, "Hey, I found your book. It was under a pile that we had at the house." And I do want to say that when my friend told me that, her and her husband told me that, I was like kind of happy they acknowledged it. That, hey, cool, you found my book. That's good. And inspiration for my novels, there's a lot of different sources. For the first book, for some characters, I had to question people. What did they think of some of the characters? And one of the main things was that Marina in the first novel was based upon, in part, on my grandfather and my grandmother. In fact, my grandfather's name was Regino, set in a contemporary context. And he was a martial artist, came from a family of martial artists whose brothers were Milicio and Isidro. Not Isidoro, but Isidro. That's truism that I changed into the book. And my grandfather's name was Reno. My grandmother's name was Marina, but at the same time, her story of her first husband did pour sand on the floor and held her hostage basically every night. That was a true story back in I believe the 30s, when that took place. Another thing I would like to stress is the fact is, a lot of people don't get this with Marina's character. I based part of Marina's character on aspects of my life. The idea of physical, verbal abuse from a father figure. That's where I got aspects of Marino's character, and also the portion of like wanting to go through the how do I say it, courtship process. I switched the role reversals. A lot of people could think, oh, you're Regino in the story in the first novel, and I told them, you know what? They don't get it. You know, it's like I was talking to a buddy of mine today about my life, my past, my testimony, and I came from an extreme testimony in some aspects. I used to be a DJ in a strip club surrounded by porn stars and strippers, to celibacy up to the point of not even holding hands with the female. That's from one extreme to the other. How do you go from DJing in a strip club with naked women in fornication going around to a place of utter celibacy, which some people have said, you know, this is a little too harsh. You can't even hold hands. You can't even kiss until you're married. And I tell them what I've told a lot of people is, these are standards of my church that a lot of people in the church don't even do. It's not forced upon you. It's you don't have to have a chaperone when you go on dates. It's one of those things where if you and your prospective partner, your fiance, or even not even a fiance, getting to the point, if you want to go through this, it's a total choice. It's not, you're not forced to say, okay, we can't do this. And a lot of people get it twisted with Christianity. Some people believe, oh, you know what, it's a bunch of roles. And I just have to remember where I came from and the filth and the muck of not a neglectful life, but, you know, a disobedient life. Because originally, a lot of people think, oh, your ways are old-fashioned. And I'm thinking, well, for a good 25 years, even after I became a Christian, there were a lot of points in my life. There were adulteries in my mind, fornications in my heart. And Jesus says it this way: if you lust after a woman with your heart, with your eyes, you're committing adultery with her, even if you physically don't touch her. And I would like to stress the fact that there have been very few courtships through what my church believes in. And we're a non-denomination Christian church, and I would like to stress the marriages that have gone through the courtship and prayer and chaperones and no physical intimacy until marriage. I've seen them go through a storm, coming out purified by fire, and they're not perfect marriages by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, I'm no judge to judging another person's marriage, but from what I see, is the fact is that sacrifice of waiting was beneficial, because that sometimes when you do get, because I know from my own past when I was out there, even when I did make a number of stumblings along the way, and, you know, let's just say mistakes I made with women. The moment I got into physical intimacy with them was a turning point of not, how would I say this, of a non-committal. And it's not like I was trying to just be a jerk and just take advantage of a person and move on to the next, but it ended up being that way. So I'm just looking from, like I said, not a lot of people have done this, and I'm still in that place where I haven't met a young woman, or maybe at this point maybe an older woman that's closer to my age, that's willing to go through that thing. But the next step is book 2. Oh, why is that dog barking? One thing with book 2 is the fact that that book I consider the yellow book, even though it's like the last book. That's a collection of short stories, and a lot of the story for the detective was based upon a friend of mine who was going through some drama with his ex-girlfriend, who was his girlfriend, became his ex-girlfriend, who was going through. He found out later that she had an abortion, and she didn't tell him. That's where Roses for Magdalena comes from. And I set into a fictional world of a private investigator, detective story set in contemporary Stockton. And the reason why I did that was because the fact is, they say write what you know. And even if I didn't directly go to that experience, and yes, 5 of the characters in that collection of stories are named Sam, and my name is Sam. Another story in there was about a guy who was riding his bicycle down Pacific Avenue, Miracle Mile in Stockton, and he gets chased by a drug addict. That happened about 1.5 years ago. I was riding my bike, going to work, and I was chased by a drug addict who thought I was, because I was out at 5 o'clock in the morning riding a bicycle, that I was a drug dealer. Kept calling me Chino. Chino! Another story in there I based upon a young woman who was a teacher. And there's actually in the 3rd book, which is a green book, called The Courtship of Regina Illustrato, I took parts of that story of another young woman, and she basically was an artist who lost her art. All right, to be continued. I'll talk to you guys later.